So, I've officially done it. I brought myself a brand new bandsaw. This is the Scheppach HBS250. I purchased this from Screwfix with my own money, so this is not a sponsored video whatsoever. I brought this one because it's got a larger cutting depth capacity, so I wanted to just make sure I get the most out of this bandsaw. And this is my first bandsaw, so it'll be interesting to see what sorts of projects I can do with this and how versatile it is in my workshop. Since I've had a bit more of an organisation in the workshop, I've got space for this, and this is a machine I've been wanting to get for a while. So it's a quick unboxing and an initial review of what I think of the machine, and maybe in a few months time I'll do a full review of the entire machine and what I think it's, whether it's good or not good. So let's get on with it. So first things first, looking at the instruction manual, it isn't great, to be honest. It's all black and white, just a few pictures of how you're supposed to assemble this. It isn't clear for someone that's first time having a bandsaw. It's quite difficult to follow, but I'm going to give it a try. The rest of it is just written instructions of how you're supposed to use it, safety, the sort of features. But the actual step-by-step installation is literally a few black and white pictures, which I'm going to have to attempt to follow, so just bear with. So off camera I've had to take the tabletop off. I'm not sure if you're supposed to be honest, because the image is not very clear, but in order to get this on, there isn't any screw or anything, it's just this plastic lever which you have to screw. But if you can see, it does come down and up, and as it comes down you just twist a little plastic ring around it. To be honest, that could be made a lot more better than it is now. It's not the most easiest way to get that tightened, but this is securely in place now. So I guess we can slide the tabletop on through this little groove, and it now should set in the correct place. But I've got to get a few bolts in place now, the ones I initially removed, to just secure those. Again, these are the bolts I'm not entirely sure. So now we've got the main table on. The next thing, according to instructions, is this dust port which goes underneath. I guess the reason you do this now is because when you put the extension arm on, it won't get in the way. So we just simply got some screws and washers that will hold this in place. And they've even supplied the correct screwdriver that will allow you to get these in place. One of the features on this bandsaw, one of the features on this bandsaw it has an extending table, and I believe this just slides in place. Once I figure out how this actually slides, yeah. This is where it really helps to have good instructions, honestly. A lot of the times I'm just trying to guess what goes where. So the little bolts which need to be tied with an Allen key, it's there just kind of as a stop so the fence doesn't go beyond where it needs to go. So for example, you can slide that up there. I guess once this is all aligned then it will work, and then you can lock. So the next bit is to use this nut and bolt with the washer to help level the table. So I'm just going to fix that in place. again, no instructions on how tight this is meant to be or not be. I guess that will do. I've just done it by hand now to just see, and if you do need to tighten it more, you can do that. So that's the main table assembly done, the extending arm with the lever, which now should go nicely in place, and that locks there. And then finally the fence. So my initial thoughts on the fence, it's quite solid. It's got a nice lever, and I've seen some fences on other bandsaws, and they don't look very well. But this one, this slides on. Once locked in, it's pretty solid, which is great. I've seen the other Scheppach, which is a slightly cheaper one. The fence is just some little plastic lever, it doesn't really do much. This is extremely solid for what it is, and it's easy, it just slides nice and across the fence, which is exactly what I will need. And there is an adjustment here in case it's not tight enough, you can tighten it more, just so you have good tension on it. It's not going to go anywhere. I will double check if that's all aligned and everything, but for now that will do. And the next steps is just to, I guess we can open this up and see how this looks. This is a little knob on the side which just brings it up or down depending on the height. Like I said, the cutting capacity, so this is at its highest point. If I was to measure that quickly, you're looking at a capacity of safely 120, but you could probably get to about 5 inches. For a small bandsaw like this, it's quite impressive, because the ones I have seen only got to 3 or 3.5 inches, which in comparison would be there. So I'm gaining another 1.5 inches, which would be great. Yeah, so the next bit is, let's get this open and see what it looks like inside. And here we go. So we've got the initial wheel here. There is a tensioner which goes on the top, and I believe that's this little knob that goes on here. Yeah, so that'll be used to apply the tension and relieve the tension. And it really is very smooth, which is good. And just underneath, just so you have an idea, same thing. So again, a very smooth feel. The blade sits nicely within the wheel, so it isn't something that's going to cause any issues. And as a safety feature, they've got switches here, so there is a brush here to keep the wheels nice and clean, and also the safety switches will stop the machine running, or it won't allow it to run. You can hear it click whilst the doors are open. So I suppose any machinery you have nowadays, you need to be as safe as possible. So after a bit of time, it's all together, it's all working fine. I haven't put the feet on because it's going to live on my workbench. Very impressed with the fence. It's very sturdy, very strong. It took me a bit of time to get the table level. There's a little stop block underneath there which just wasn't moving. So I had to pivot it to 40 and get a good angle on that. In terms of the blade, it looks like it's aligned at the moment, but once I've done a few tests, it should be fine. In terms of squareness, it's nice and square now, which is perfect. Again, I will have to keep adjusting it as I do a few tests to see how it goes, but at the moment it looks good. I've locked that in place, so we shouldn't have any issues from that perspective. The other thing I didn't mention is the fact that it came with a mitre gauge, whatever you want to call this. It's like any other mitre gauge that comes with any machine. They're not perfect. It's one of those fiddly ones which are never accurate. You just lock it in place. Slides in nicely. Probably needs a bit of an adjustment because it is quite tight. But how often will I be using this? Probably not. I have my table saw for that. So again, this is probably just another piece of accessory which will be hung up or put in a cupboard somewhere. But yeah, it's all connected up. I've checked the blade and I'm happy with that. It's all plugged in. I haven't put any just trying to work out whether this has a hook of some sort, which this hooks onto. Yep, it does on the side. Yeah, so I've plugged in. I haven't put my shop vac in. I just want to see and how loud it's going to be. So here it goes. I have to say it's very quiet. From what I was expecting compared to my table saw and mitre saw, this is be very loud, but it's actually quite the opposite. So I'm going to grab some hardwood, softwoods, give it a little test and see how we get on. So for the test, I've got 3 pieces of timbers. I have poplar, I believe this is Meranti or Iroko, and Sapele. These are the woods I use very often, so for me it's probably best to test the ones I use. And we're going to use a fence for this so that we can see the stability of the fence and how strong it holds in place. So let's start off with the poplar because it is a softer hardwood. I just want to see how well it cuts, to be honest. So we'll start by adjusting the height of the blade guard, and we're just going to rip this in half all the way to see how it goes. May need to use that, but it's quite chunky, but yeah, we'll come back to that. And I have connected the shop vac just underneath so we can see how the extraction goes in terms of dust collection as well. So straight away, cut really quickly actually, to be honest. It isn't very wavy from what I was expecting. This hasn't had very much adjustment in terms of the blade itself. So just out of the box it's pretty not too bad, to be honest. Could just do with a quick hand plane and we're good to go. So yeah, very impressed with that so far. Let's go to a slightly more dense wood. And we're going to do across the grain on the Sapele to see how that goes, and then we'll go against the grain, go with the grain on this particular one. So we do the Sapele first. What can I say? I'm very impressed. It just cuts like butter, to be honest. And this is Sapele, so it's quite a dense hardwood. Probably not the densest, but the cut is very clean. So if I just show you, Um, this is the actual teeth mark it leaves, but it is very clean in terms of the cut. Very impressed, to be honest. And the final one is this this last hardwood piece we have. And again, the cuts are nice and clean. It's particularly quite straight, if I'm honest. Overall, very impressed. So those are 3 different hardwoods I'd probably be using quite often. In terms of dust on the table, there's very little. There hasn't much. I guess the extraction works quite well because it's just underneath the blade. First impressions are very good. I really like the machine. I haven't done any test cuts off camera, so these are the first test cuts I've done. Very impressed. So the blade from the box itself, it cuts all the hardwoods I'd possibly need. No issues there whatsoever. I will do some more tests off camera to see if it does cut slightly chunkier woods very well. And I'll do one just now on camera just for yourself. So we'll adjust this height so that we can get a quite chunky piece of wood in there and see how that goes. But initially, very impressed. It's not loud. I haven't even got any earpieces on, which I normally do. It doesn't really affect me. So very impressed. I'm actually glad I got this machine. Again, I need to use it for a good few months to see if there's any flaws, whether it maintains as good cuts and so forth. So we'll do that at a later stage, but let me just do a quick chuck. And I've got a nice big chunky piece of oak. These are the sorts of chunkiness in terms of wood size that I'd probably cut. I'm not going to attempt to cut the entire depth, even though it possibly can, but it just about will go through, so it does need to be trimmed a bit more. But let's go for cutting on this side of the oak, and see how we get on. Again, no issues whatsoever. It's fairly smooth. You could probably just get away with doing a glue up with this. It just needs a bit of a quick plane over. But I'm just very impressed on how it just cuts straight through. No hesitation, no struggle whatsoever. And like I said, this hasn't had much adjustment out of the box. I've just put it all together. The fence is awesome. It stays in place, not any movements there whatsoever. Yeah, very impressed. I like the machine. I probably will get a lot of use out of this. If you find this useful, or if you're interested or any other questions about the machine, feel free to comment below. Yeah, please like, share, and most importantly, please subscribe. Thank you.